years, there are some on Nevis who would have felt that, the federal government might not have dealt with us in the best possible way. Some persons even felt slighted. There's a whole history of federal elections. We would remember that at one point in time there was a federal election where the PAM party and the Labour Party both got 4 seats, and so CCM got 2 seats on Nevis, and the NRP in Nevis had 1 seat, and the CCM government, the CCM party at the time, took the decision to remain neutral, not to join with any of the parties on St. Kitts to form a federal government. At that time, the NRP and the PAM formed a coalition. I believe that they had just been coming out of a coalition before, and the whole reason for that, from a CCM perspective, is that the CCM has always been a fiercely independent type party. In the past, CCM has advocated fiercely for secession and independence for Nevis and so on. So it was an unprecedented step for the CCM party to move forward and to lock up and join with the PAM party and the newly formed People's Labour Party. And it had to be that there were events that precipitated this, because, as I said before, CCM is a fiercely independent party, and we would have preferred, in the past, we would have preferred to run the affairs of Nevis and allow the structure here on St. Kitts, which is a federal structure, to run the affairs here on St. Kitts and to take care of the matters that are federal, because, of course, the federal government does have a lot of jurisdiction over many of the things on Nevis. So it had to be a lot of things were happening. It had to be that we felt that there was a real need to be more involved in the process. At the time, I spent some years in government, and I can tell you that there were hard years from 2013 up until 2015. We had to endure quite a bit. And so we, from a Nevis perspective, we definitely welcome the coming of unity. It was not something where an election was held and we decided to join after. It was something that was done prior to the election, with all of the necessary discussions being held. And I must say that from 2015 until now, it has been quite a different relationship between the Nevis Island administration and the federal government. Indeed, it has been the ushering in of a brand new paradigm. The people of Nevis actually feel a lot more included. This is the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. We got independence in 1983, and it is only this year, late last year, for the first time that somebody from Nevis has been head of Social Security. It is only after the coming of Team Unity that we've had anybody from Nevis ever being an ambassador, with Dr. Everson Hull being ambassador to the OAS, and now my own cousin, Sherry Truss, being the High Commissioner to Canada. And we have other diplomats who are now high-ranking in the diplomatic corps from Nevis. So it is the first time in the long history of the Federation from 83 until now that we've had a situation where both islands can feel that they are a part of the entire federal structure. So from a Nevis point of view, that for me is the one of the better things, one of the good things that Team Unity has brought. And I will go further to say that on Nevis, regardless to whether you are CCM supporter or NRP supporter on Nevis, there is a lot of support for the whole team unity arrangement. When I speak to persons who are, I don't want to use the term rabid, but people who are very strong NRP supporters, one of the things that we all agree on, and one of the things that they would say is that, we have to admit that the team unity arrangement has been good for Nevis, that Nevis has been able to benefit from some of the CBI inflows and so on. And that, of course, is a very, very good thing in terms of overall for the Federation. There have been a lot of, you just keep checking off the things that Team Unity is doing. Just last week, we had the, I think it's the official launch of the universal health care and so on. And the list goes on and on. I will leave a few things for Janelle to say.
All right. Thank you very much. And of course, we gathered here today to look at the achievements and challenges of two administrations. One, the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party administration, and some will say St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party NRP administration, and the Team Unity administration. We now go to Dr. Drew.
Yes, Clyde, thanks. Thank you, Troy, for your introduction. I don't think at this moment I'll challenge anything that Troy said, but I'll make a presentation, my 5-minute presentation, and then later on we can discuss some of the things that he said and look at the basis for them. But I would like to say that the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party is the party of positive transformation in our federation. Originally known as the Workers' League, in 1932 it was changed to the St. Kitts Nevis and Anguilla Labour Party, so that this year we can calculate that we are well over 80 years in existence. And I think that the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party is the oldest Labour Party in the OECS. And if we were to look at the Caribbean, is one of the oldest. And the Labour Party continues strong, which really reflects the foundation on which it is built. We were led originally by the first national hero, Robert Bratcher, then Lee Elmore, and now the Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas. This party fought for universal adult suffrage. The fact that all of us can sit around here and ask people to vote for us, irrespective of their economic background, where they come from, their skin color, is really a testimony to the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. So all my panelists have the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party and the St. Kitts Nevis Labour movement to thank for this right. We brought about universal health care, and I'll discuss a bit more about what was introduced recently as Troy brought it up. Because during the colonial era, our people, who were majority black and poor, their lives were no better than the ex-slaves. Many of them used to have to give birth to children in sugarcane fields and so forth. And so there was a healthcare revolution by the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. So all the health centers, or most of the health centers that you see around the country, this was an initiative to combat such poor condition of our people. We brought about comprehensive secondary education to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Before this came into being, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, only few used to go to high school. Many of them had to leave school after primary school and work in sugarcane fields and do other odd jobs without any real prospect for the future. And so the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party brought it about, saying that every child, irrespective of where he or she comes from, who is the mother, the father, the economic background, that they would have access to secondary education. So the education that we benefit, all of us here, again, we want to thank the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Movement and the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. Our party fought for the lands for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, even Frigate Bay, where many of us go to enjoy the beaches and the strip and so forth. We must remember that we didn't have access to it. It was the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Movement who actually freed up Frigate Bay so that the descendants of the ex-slave, the sugar workers, and the poor could access that area. Today, a lot of us can own land because of the initiative by the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party and movement that ensured in 1976 that the land would come back to the descendants of the slaves and anybody who really want to own a piece of land. Our party was out of power from 1980 to 1995, and so we got back into power in 1995. During that time, we recognized that there was a transformation in St. Kitts and Nevis. However, we were hit very early by major hurricanes, which really set back a young administration, or would have set back a young administration, but Labour faced this challenge, of course, manly, as I would put it. Not only that, but we were also hit by a World Trade Organization's decision to really repeal the protected market for our sugarcane that we had. So dealing with these two real disasters, one being economic and one being a natural disaster which had economic repercussions, our country had to be rebuilt. And the Labour Party stood good to its word for the good that we can do, and went to work to rebuild this country. And so we started to rebuild. We started the housing revolution, where we converted old houses and outside toilets into modern concrete structures with inside toilets. We built reservoirs, new buildings, new roadways, transforming the country. Our healthcare also was transformed. We built a brand new hospital, not only in terms of infrastructure, but in terms of programs. We went on and we did the HIV program, which now today we have mother-to-child transmission, which is zero. A new nursing bachelor's program was introduced. Many doctors were sent off to various places to study, including Cuba. I was the beneficiary of one of those scholarships. Life expectancy rose from the 60s to the 70s, and we joined the ranks of the developed nations. Many young people, irrespective of their background, went on to university. Many of them became doctors, lawyers, accountants, engineers, whatever they wanted to study and their talents would allow them to. The Development Bank had a high number of student loans, and scholarships were given in droves, so that today you can find professionals all around St. Kitts, not just in Bastia area. And so Labour was able to eradicate the country and town dilemma, as people in the country had seen progress also. Labour understands that we can only survive if we become more competitive in the world, and to be more competitive, our people had to be better educated. We introduced the REACH program. We introduced, was not a welfare program, we introduced the one-to-one laptop program for people which would have extended into the primary school level. We brought about the CBI, and I'm sure economists will talk about some of the achievements of this, which really helped to transform our country. So in sum, as I wrap up this initial opening, I would say that Labour has been a force for good for St. Kitts and Nevis. Labour left this country in 2015 at number one in many respects. We were number one in economic growth, number one in renewable energy. We were also number one in direct foreign investment, number one in manufactured exports to the United States, number one with the highest minimum wage, number one with government-initiated entrepreneurship programs, number one with land and home ownership for nationals, number one with personal banking deposits, and of course our CBI program was number one. So as I wrap up, I will say to those listening, Labour has always been and will continue to be a force for good. We left this country at number one. Thank you, Clyde.
Thank you very much, Dr. Drew. So we've heard from Mr. Troy Liburd, we've heard from Dr. Drew. We now go to hear from Mr. John Powell. Mr. Powell.
You know, on the face of it, when you think about what we're doing here today, comparing the two administrations, it may seem a bit uneven, where we are comparing a 3-year-old administration to an administration that was in government for almost 20 years. But at the same time, when you look at the stellar performance of the Team Unity government over the last 3 years, the playing field has been significantly leveled in those short 3 years because of the vast achievements that this government has been able to achieve in the benefit of the people. I mean, when you look at the very first thing that Team Unity did, removing VAT from food, medicine, and funeral expenses, it shows that this is a government which doesn't just do things for the sake of doing things, but takes time out to analyze what they're doing and do things to the benefit of people, things that affect the ordinary man or woman on the street. It is truly a government for all the people. It's amazing when sometimes you walk to the streets and you hear PAM people saying, boy, they call them Labour people that still have in the government. Because we are government for all the people, and that is the platform that we ran on, and that is the promise that we will continue to make as a government. This is a government which acts for everybody, whether you're PAM, your Labour, your PLP, your CCM, your NRP. Whether you petition on the vision, and Troy would have touched on a number of benefits that the people of Nevis have had from a federal government and federal relationship that had never been, that had never existed before now. And so this team unity government continues to operate on a level like no other administration. I think the closest we had before was a PAM administration in the 80s. But I know that will be, I see Conway smiling, so I know we're going to debate that later. But I mean, so many things have been done in the last 3 years, and we continue to build on those things. When you look at major initiatives such as $16 million in passenger gratuities going to former sugar workers, when you look at the renovation and reopening of the Mary Charles Hospital in Molyneux, when you consider the soon-to-be built second cruise pier at Port Zante, let's look at the tourism numbers that we are now seeing in St. Kitts and Nevis from, I believe it was just over 600,000 cruise passengers in 2014 to an estimated 1.5 million passengers in this season. That's over 100% increase. That's more than double, almost triple. When you look at the continued economic success of the government, I think last year we were ranked the #1 performing economy in Latin America and the Caribbean. I think that has only ever been achieved by us in the 80s under the PAM administration. The CBI program, I want to believe Dr. Drew had a slip of the tongue when he said they brought about the CBI program, but
the enhancement of the CBI program.
The enhancement.
The enhancement of the CBI program.
Okay. Well, I will say the true enhancement came under the Team Unity administration, because when we took over that program, which brought in billions of dollars into this economy, was in shambles. We met a program which was the laughing stock, so to speak, of the industry. We had just had our Canadian visa-free waiver removed. We had all sorts of nefarious characters out there carrying around St. Kitts and Nevis passports. We had troubles with the US and the EU in relation to the program, and so this administration had to take some hard decisions and do some serious negotiating to bring it back, to make it a true program, to make it what is now the #1 CBI program in the world again. And you know, it's not about playing politics with a lot of these issues. It's about doing what is in the best interest of the people. And I have to keep bringing that back home. But I move on. I mean, things like the separation of the High Court Registry from the Land Registry, something that had been bantered about for years, has finally been done to make things easier for persons to be able to conduct business and do transfers in both registries much easier. You know, people have been waiting for years to get titles to properties. The situation has now been rectified. We have a second High Court chamber at the Sir Lee Moore Judicial Complex. We've introduced a third magisterial court in the Bassier district. All things to show that we are serious about law and order. We're serious about justice. We're serious about getting matters to the court. Largest ever budget for the Ministry of National Security, because we're serious about security and about fighting crime. These are tangible things which show the sincerity and the seriousness of this administration in getting things done. I can go on and on and on, but we don't have time for that. And I'm sure that as we continue, much more will come out in terms of what this administration is doing, how we continue to do, and how we continue to battle above our weight and to do things that benefit the people, all the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And I will pause there for now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Powell. We go now to Mr. Conris Maynard. Mr. Maynard.
A pleasant good morning again. I see that where we're going to have the back and forth is going to be very interesting because there are a few things that I certainly would want to respond to. But in general, for my opening, I will give that brief opening and then we can go into that important section. Now, we in the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party firmly believe that we have a sterling record of achievement as it relates to the development of this country. I have actually never heard tangible arguments against that, even from persons who don't support the St. Kitts and Nevis Labour Party. It goes without saying that even if we look at our country's political history from 1932 to now, the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party has only never been in power for 18 of those years. It therefore shows that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis had immense confidence in the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party to be the party that was responsible for the development of our country. Now, by the end of our last term, our federation, as Dr. Drew mentioned, had become number one in a number of areas. And it's only 5 minutes, so we're going to just skim through a couple of them and then have a chance to have the back and forth. We were number one in the region in economic growth. We were going at about 6% or thereabout. We were number one in renewable energy. We were number one in direct foreign investment. We were number one in the region for manufactured exports to the United States. We were number one in wages that by law could be paid to workers. We were number one in government-initiated skills training programs in the region. We were number one in government-initiated job placement programs, entrepreneurship programs. We were number one in land and home ownership for nationals. We were number one in terms of supporting the vulnerable members of our society. We were number one in the region for personal banking deposits. And most certainly, we were number one in the CBI program, which I will go into some details a little later. And so these are some of the things that we were number one in. Dr. Drew mentioned a number of the things that we would have achieved. Now, I'm going to defer a little bit here because the person who spoke before me spoke about the imbalance of comparing 20 years versus 3 years. But the Labour Party was so concerned and so found it so important governing the country that it documented, especially in the early days, the achievements that it would have made over the first 15 months and the first 3 years and first 5 years of the administration. And I went to the archives to compare what we had done in the first 3 years of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party after we would have won elections in 1995. I will just go through a few of them because it is quite a bit. We had done some very key ones. We had the establishment of the National Housing Corporation. We must note that by the end of the PAM administration, there were about 250 homes that were built for the ordinary man and woman. We found this to be grossly insufficient for the housing needs of the people at the time, and embarked upon a housing revolution that has not been matched anywhere in the Caribbean. So there was the commencement of a 1,000-home construction program, which by now the Labour Party would have been responsible for building close to 5,000 homes for the lower income bracket in our country. That means, if you look at it, you have 5,000 homes, on average, 4 persons in a home. You're effectively catering for almost half of your population. We had the commencement of direct flights from London. We had the complete renovation of the Robert Llewellyn Bradshaw International Airport, $40 million project. We were serious at that time about expanding our culture and arts, and so there was the establishment of the Department of Culture. And in addition, the famed music festival was brought about in the early part of the administration in 95 or 96. We had the revival of the tourist industry that was fledgling at the time, and there was the ill-conceived construction design of a Port Zante that was rushed and was completely decimated by hurricanes. Since the Labour administration took over and rebuilt it, it has not suffered that type of fate, even though it has gone through similar types of hurricanes. At the time we took over in 1995, the sugar industry was failing, and it was a difficult industry to manage, but the Labour Party was still able to increase its production upon its first 3 years. There was the abolition of the cable tax and removal of all customs duty from personal computers. At that time, that would have been a forward-thinking notion and policy by the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, as the age of computers was just about coming on. And so those taxes were removed such that people can have access to computers. There was the building of the new netball complex and general improvement of all the sporting facilities in St. Kitts. There was the building of a brand new football grandstand at Warner Park. Don't know if you remember that. We had the broadening of the pension plans. We already had increased the minimum wage for the employees on the industrial sites. We saw the greatest increase in recent history at that time of arrivals to St. Kitts and Nevis. There was the building of a brand new craft house at Ponds Industrial. There was the completion of the reservoirs at Sadler's, Southeast Peninsula, Frigate Bay, Newton Ground, Olives. And this, very importantly, there was the commencement of the resurfacing of the second half of the island main road from Sandy Point to Keyon via St. Paul's. I remember, as a young fella, driving with my parents from town around the island. And when we got to Sandy Point, the road was smooth, and as soon as we left Sandy Point, the road was horrible. At that time, being young, you didn't fully understand. And so it was a very important initiative to show the country at the time that the government was not going to be for only those who supported it, but rather for the whole country. These are just a few of the accomplishments that were in the first 3 years of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party administration. And as that term went on, the confidence grew so much in the ability of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party to govern the affairs of the country that they had a resounding victory of all 8 seats in the next election. As we go forward, I will then have some more time to go into the accomplishments that have happened after that. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Mr. Maynard. Thank you very much, panelists, for your opening comments. We'll hear from our partners when we come back. We'll have room for debate.
At Cable, we provide much more than just the fastest and most reliable internet service. We fill the homes of all our customers with joy and laughter. Our services connect friends and keep families together. With the most extensive fiber optic network, we ensure that you can enjoy the things you love with the people you love. Whether it's catching up with family or old friends, or simply just enjoying your favorite TV shows, people choose the cable because quality shows.
It's a new day at Digicel, so stick around for the fun as we continue to give you more. Don't want to miss that movie or game? Now you can take your TV wherever you go. When you buy a Quick Pick bundle, you'll get access to the PlayGo TV app subscription free and 1 hour free PlayGo data streaming every single day. So you can watch your favorite TV shows, movies, or live sports without using any of your data. So go to the My Digicel app and buy a Quick Pick bundle to start watching on the go. Only with Digicel.
Imagine a place that has all that you need. All of the things for your business to succeed. Furniture, copiers, laptops and more. TDC Business Center is your #1 store. Print and copy and scan and fax. Our copy center does all of that. If you're having a party and you need chairs and tents, you've got all your needs and grand rentals to rent. The TDC Business Center has everything your business needs. Superior copy and printing services, business equipment and furniture, and a wide array of renting materials for all occasions. TDC Business Center, providing solutions that work.
You're listening to Win FM. It's 98.9 on your dial. We're pleased to have with us today Mr. Conris Maynard. We have Dr. Terence Drew, Mr. John L. Powell, Mr. Troy Liburd. You had opening statements to the debate today. The achievements and challenges of two administrations, the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party NRP administration and the Team Unity administration. We now have room for debate, and we'll follow the process we started by having Mr. Liburd weigh in, and then we will open the floor so you can jump in as you see fit once we can hear one person at a time. All right, so back to Mr. Liburd.
Thank you, Mr. Bacchus. And I must say it was quite the history lesson here from Dr. Drew to begin with, and then my good cousin Conris.